wave at the camera.
It's us sharing what has worked for us with our kids, right? And it might not work in every situation, but we're pretty mean to our kids, basically. We don't let them do anything.
We let them do some stuff.
We do.
Like milk goats.
Yeah, exactly. They do milk goats. They do have a lot of responsibilities on the farm, and we're really lucky to have them, right? I mean, you know, back in the day when you're thinking about it, the farmers had a lot of kids, right? Because they needed the helping hands, because there was a lot of stuff that needed to be done. There was no, we're taking a break and playing video games. There's like, well, we've got animals to feed, we got, you know, hay to bring in, we got stuff that needs to be done, and we need manpower for it, and we ain't paying for that manpower, so we're just gonna make us some babies. Right? And, you know, I mean, we have two. We have a 10-year-old and we have a 13-year-old. And so when we first moved onto the property, they were, well, 8 and 11,
Well,
right?
yeah, before we got our property, we got 20 acres between Pensacola and Milton. Before that, we were working overseas in Abu Dhabi, Dubai. We worked there for 7 years.
7 years.
And then we decided to come back to Milton, which is my hometown, and we wanted to get a piece of land and start raising our own animals, have a garden, try to be more self-sufficient, right? So when we moved to the UAE, to Abu Dhabi, our children were 5 and 2, right? So all they knew growing up was city life.
City life, yeah.
Right? Internet, doing whatever they want, playing with friends.
Yeah.
And then when they were 8 and 10, when we came back, 7 years later,
Yep.
7 to
8 and 11.
8 and 11, somewhere in there, we came back and just completely changed their whole world. Right?
Completely 180, right? Because they went from city life to country life, from having neighbors and friends that they can run to 20 acres in the middle of nowhere. We don't have neighbors for miles. So there is no, oh, mommy made me mad or she made me upset, I'm going to go to my friend's house. Yeah, that's not happening. Yeah, something's going to probably eat you on the way, so maybe
So
not.
It was a big culture shock from them, going from that to now. Okay, we're trying to build this lifestyle for us, and they're not just sitting in the rooms playing on iPads. That was something that we instilled right away. Was we got to work and we got to take care of stuff before we entertain ourselves.
And one of the things that really helped us with that was the fact that we're out in the middle of nowhere. There's no high-speed internet, right?
Yeah.
So we have the closest thing to internet that we have is satellite. And if anybody has satellite internet in here, it doesn't work so great.
Yeah. And we were capped at 50 gigs a month.
Yeah.
So I got better internet on my cell phone than we have Wi-Fi in the house.
Yeah.
So we had to cap them. So what we would do is, okay, in the mornings, we'll give you a little bit of internet time between taking care of chores in the morning, taking care of animals, and before you go to school. They have like a 20-minute window where they can get on YouTube, or my daughter can play on her phone, but they know that before any of that happens, they got chores to do. Our kids are probably the only kids in their school that before school, they're out collecting chicken eggs, they're out feeding goats and putting out hay every morning. And we got them to the point now to where on the weekends, they know that they get a little bit of extra, but only after chores are done. So sometimes we sleep in and we'll see them walking by the window, carrying feed and carrying water, and you look, it's 6 o'clock in the morning. But in their mindset, I got to get this done before I can get my tablet or before I can do anything else. So whatever time it is, but I had to tell them, you're not allowed to go out before 6 o'clock in the morning, because we caught them. I heard them outside one day. It's 5:15 in the morning. It's too early. It's still dark outside. You guys are going to get eaten by a bobcat or something. So we had to tell them, you can't go that early. So let's wait till 6. They go out, they each know what their responsibilities are, and they help each other out.
Yeah.
If they need help, they know that it's not just my responsibilities that I have to take care of as the 10-year-old boy, and she's got her job. He does his stuff. If he finishes before her, he knows, hey, I got to go and cover down and help her out, because we don't come in until all the chores are done. So
Right.
we had a problem with that at first, where he'd run out. He didn't have as much because we staggered the workload based on what you can handle, right? So as a 10-year-old, he can't handle what the 13-year-old can handle. So he would run out, say, I got a little bit to do, run out, do what he's got to do, and he'd run back in. And he's in his bedroom, she's out working, what are you doing? Oh, I'm done. No, you're not. If she's still out there, you help her and y'all come in together, because you guys are teammates.
You're a team. You're a team. And yeah, I mean, we don't put anything on them that we don't think they can handle, but we do challenge them. We do give them stuff that we know they can handle. Maybe they are not necessarily thinking the same way, but we're kind of pushing them outside of their comfort zone a little bit. But we're not going to give them something that we know they can't handle.
Yeah.
So I mean, right now we kind of got it split up where we got a lot of animals all over the place. Where we split up the chores, or he does his part, I do my part, the kids do their part, and the kids and I usually go out together. We split up the food, we distribute it to everybody, and everybody has a job, and we're done in 20 minutes, right? So if everybody works together and nobody has a bad attitude about it, we can get done with things a lot quicker than not. So that's really worked out great for us, and even though it was probably the beginning was a little bit more of a struggle, and there's obviously things that they enjoy more than others, like playing with baby goats. I mean, that's I mean, who doesn't like that?
We're in kidding season right now, and everybody wants to help. When there's baby kids, we got lambs right now, so everybody wants to take part in that. But it's when it's not kidding season, when there's not goats on the ground.
Yeah, because it's an all-year thing, right? I mean, you don't stop just because there's no babies around right now, or just because there's not a garden to harvest and things like that. And there's definitely things that they enjoy more. I mean, when we're doing building projects or anything with animals and things like that, they're there, right? It's like, oh, this is fun. I get to use power tools, and I get to play with animals, and whatever. Now when I go out into the garden, it's obviously more boring. So like, well, they don't get that excited about it.
They like helping dad more than mom.
They do. They like to go out into the garden and harvest, but when it comes to digging the dirt and planting seeds and like everything that happens before that, it's like, But we've established a rule in the house where if we're outside working, no matter what it is, you better not be inside the house.
Yeah.
Basically.
If we're out working, if it's a weekend and we're out working and we're out sweating, you need to be out there with us.
Yeah.
We were out a couple of weeks ago, and we were kind of giving the kids a break. We were doing something that was a little bit more, I don't remember what it was, but it was a little more involved than what they could help with. And so we didn't tell them we were going out to work. We just went to the barn and started working. And the 10-year-old comes up and he just kind of hovers around us, and we're like, what do you want? He's like, I just feel like I should be out here too. I was like, no, you're good, man. You can go inside. We don't need you for this. He's like, I'm gonna get this shovel. I'm gonna do something. I can't be inside with you guys out here because it just doesn't feel right. I think that's what he says. It doesn't feel right. But you can't overload them. You gotta give them jobs that suit their abilities at whatever age they are, and you gotta add responsibility as they grow, but you gotta challenge them too. Okay, because there's only so long that a kid can just collect the eggs for you before that gets boring.
Right.
And then they want to move up to something a little more challenging for them, and you got to make them get out there. For our kids, when we first started, if you give them an option between the iPad and going out in the garden with mom, for a child, the obvious answer is going to be the iPad.
Every time.
Every time that iPad or those video games are going to win. But if you take that option away and like, we're not doing that, we're going outside, we're going to dig in the dirt, we're going to get some sunshine, it'll surprise you how quick, once they accept the fact that, okay, we're out in the dirt, they might complain for 5 or 10 minutes, but after a while, they're going to be out there and they're going to be enjoying themselves.
Yeah, it changes really, really quick. Once you just take that option away, it doesn't take long. They get over it.
Yeah.
No, they can be mad at you for a minute. It's all right. They'll get over it, and then they start working, and it's fine. And they do a really good job. And like they point a lot of stuff out to us. It's like, oh, you know what? Mama, why don't we do stuff like that? Why don't we do it like this? It's not a bad idea. We can try that out, right? I mean, if it works, it works. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and that's fine too. We learn by making mistakes. Our 13-year-old she's really involved with the goats. I mean, who doesn't love baby goats? That's her thing. She's our goat lady. And last year, she came up to us and she asked, "Hey, can I take over the milking?" Yeah, totally.
We hate milking goats.
You can totally take that over. So at that point, we had two to milk where the babies were weaned off at that point. And well, I mean, there were more coming, but she didn't think that far ahead, right? At that point, it was only 2 goats. Not knowing that she's going to end up milking 6 goats. By hand.
Wow. Oh, nice.
By hand. So that turned into a dreaded chore really quick, but she knew she had to do it every day, and that was just part of the job. Since it was her idea, she was too stubborn to admit. I'm like, well, maybe I don't want to do that anymore.
But it's her job now.
But it's her job now. This is it. You took it on. You stick with it, and you want to be the goat lady. So we kind of came up with a little business plan together. And that's just one of those lessons that you can teach them, you know, where you apply real life examples. Like, look, this is how it works in the real world. If you got a business plan, you know, you better present it right. It needs to make sense to the investor, right? To make that work. And she's like, okay, I'm going to do the milking, and I want to make some money off of it, right? Fair. So for every kid that we sell, she gets a cup. And one of the reasons for that was because she likes to spend time with the kids. She literally goes down there when we have baby goats or lambs right now. She'll go down after school, after she's done with her homework. She'll take a book down there and just sit there and read to them.
Is it anybody familiar with, been around kid goats or goats in general? Okay, so a goat generally is kind of skittish of people unless you have food for them or unless they've been bottle fed, right? A bottle fed goat is kind of like a puppy dog. As it grows up, it has learned that humans are a source of food and nourishment, and they seek people out, whereas regular goats that grow up with their mom are a little more standoffish, and unless you actually have food, then they'll come away. Like, we got some goats that are bottle fed, some goats that were fed on the mom, and you can't, the ones that weren't bottle fed, I can't just walk up to them and pet them. They're gonna be like, you don't have food, get away from me. Whereas the bottle babies, even though they're grown now, they still see people as a source of food and nourishment, and they will come to you and they'll be right with you and jumping up on you, and they're just such sweeter goats.
Pet quality.
And Amber, our daughter, she spends so much time with these goats when they're not even bottle fed. Like, she'll grab them and she'll sit on a swing and she'll pet them and she reads to them. And I don't know how she does. I didn't even know it was a thing, but she can make a non-bottle fed goat seem just like a bottle baby. Like, you can't. You would think that these things are bottle fed just because they've developed such a strong bond with her that once we sell them, they have that bond with just people in general, and you would swear that they're bottle babies. So, like Nicole said, what we started doing was, okay, for every kid that we sell, we're going to give you a $20 cut of it. And so, and what we've done from there is, she's like, okay, now she's making money.
Invested.
But it's not just treating these babies, taking care of these babies, it's also milking moms. Right? So what we're working on with her right now, we've planted the seed. You hate milking goats and you're making this money. Now, if you want to take this money, we can buy a milk machine for you, and then you're gonna, that's your thing if that's what you want to do. If you want a milk machine and you want to cut down on time milking these goats yourself, you can use your money that you've made with your goat business from us, and you can invest in yourself, and you can cut down on the time that you spend milking goats. And that's just another way to get her thinking and challenging herself, and
investing in the future. Just kind of learning that in the real world, you're not going to get anything for free, right? You got to work for it. Money just doesn't show up at the ATM.
Now, you said they go to school?
Yes, ma'am.
So has she had, at 13 especially, has she had friends from school come out and stay and want to help with that sort of thing? Or do you encourage that or no?
We haven't had any sleepovers.
Okay.
No, we've got cousins that come out and they help, and we got friends that have children, and they come and they help out.
Yeah.
And even the cool kids at school, they think they're too cool for farm life. They come out and you put a baby goat in front of them.
Sure.
And they're just like,
things change quickly.
just like any other 11-year-old, 12-year-old. You forget how cool you are, and then you just melt when you see a baby goat.
Right. But that was it was a little bit of a challenge for her, right? Having to think about, it's like, okay, so on the one hand, I could make my life easier, right? I could turn a 2-hour chore into 20-30 minutes, right? But I'm going to have to come out of pocket with some money and then pay, I got to pay back for it, right? They're going to give me a loan for it, I'm going to pay it back. So it's all like real life application, right? So she is like, well, I can keep the money that I got and keep doing it for like 2-3 hour chores, whatever it takes me, depending on the attitude. Or I could cut down my time and invest in this and make my life easier. And like she thought about it back and forth a little bit, and eventually she made the decision, no, let's do some research, let's get a milking machine, and that's what we're going to do. I'm okay making this investment, it's going to help me long term, and it's just a really great real life application, right? Just because you're on a farm doesn't mean you can't apply real life situations, because it happens all the time, right? A farm is still a business, regardless, and we need to be able to sustain the farm as much as we can. So she made that decision, that's what we're going to do. So as a next step, we're going to research, okay, what's the best equipment, what makes sense, how much money do we want to spend, and things like that. And just getting them involved in that is, like, you can almost see the wheels turning, them actually applying critical thinking skills. And it's just, you don't have to have a special lesson plan or anything. So, that's homeschooling, right? You apply that stuff and you give them these examples and you let them figure it out.
It really
right? You
just
don't
happens.
give them the solutions.
It just happens organically when you're trying to get your kids involved. Then just the ideas start flowing. You just, the hardest part as parents is just breaking them away and getting them out there with you.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, you can do it a lot faster yourself with a lot less headache if you just leave them in the house and let them play on their computers and their iPads.
Especially when they're little, right? Because you have a toddler running around and they want to help so bad all the time.
Yeah.
But it will be so much easier if you just
there's a lot
take
of
a nap.
times I got Zachary and we're building something, putting something together, and I'm just like, oh man, I could do this so much quicker if I was by myself. And I'm like, no, he needs to learn it. We need him out here, and you want him out there.
He sends you right though.
You want him to learn it. Yeah, we were putting a deer stand up in January. I went and bought a 2-man deer stand at Walmart, 16-footer, and he's smart and he's quick-witted. And I grabbed the wrong bolt. Nope, Dad, it's not that bolt. You want this bolt right here. This is the one that it wants you to use. Okay, you're right. I didn't think anything of it. I just keep going. We get in the house. Zach runs to Nicole and he's like, hey, we finished the deer stand. Okay, cool.
And I basically did the job because Dad doesn't know
Yeah,
what he's doing.
if it weren't for me out there, we would have never got done with it because Dad was just all over the place. I'm like, it was one bolt, I picked up one long bolt, and
Never going to hear the end of it
still
now.
hearing about every time we pass that tree, saying, "Yeah, if it weren't for me, that thing would still be in pieces in the driveway."
Yeah. Yeah, and they learn a lot from each other as well, and it teaches them teamwork and working together and being able to kind of play ideas off each other too. And now with Amber having her little goat business set up, Zachary, well,
Now he's like, "How can I make money?"
where's my business at? Like, what are we going to do? I help with the goats. Where's
Yeah.
my pot pay? I was like, no, you don't help with
You
the
don't
goats.
help like she helps. So we're working on finding something that he can do to make some money.
Yeah, so we're thinking probably some chickens.
Something with the
Chicken
chickens.
action.
It's just,
Right there. So yeah, we're thinking about what we can do, and we're kind of letting him think about, okay, what do you think would make sense with what we've got? Let's work with what we have, because we're not going to go and invest in something and then have a big old loss right here. We're going to work with what we have, and then look, if it's working out for everybody, we can invest in it at that point. But first, we got to make something work
yeah.
and go from there. So they're doing a really good job with it, and they've really changed from, you know, that city mindset over to where we are now. And I mean, we were homeschooling them for a while when we got back. We got back, what, March of 2020?
March 2020.
March 2020, right when the world shut down, basically.
When everyone was
We were basically coming back, exactly, right? We enrolled them in school, we came back. Where we are at in the middle of, are you okay?
I'm good.
All right. Where we're at, it's a little country school, so, you know, a lot of people don't have internet out there and things like that. So we went old school. We went to work pages, right? So there was no internet, there were no Zoom calls, anything like that. So we were better off in that regards than the city kids. So we worked off of worksheets for the rest of the year. We went in once a week to pick them up for the week. We assigned work, and then we turned them back in. Done. And with that, we kind of got started like, well, this homeschooling thing, maybe it's not as hard as we thought. Maybe we could do this. And then the next school year rolled around, and we decided we're going to try this homeschool thing. Because at that point, it was still everybody's got to wear masks, everybody's got to quarantine all the time.
Can't play games.
Can't do nothing. You can't go for PE. There's no playtime. Nothing is allowed. You might be home today because you have the sniffles, and then you got to stay home. You can't go back to school. And
Some
back
kid
and
2
forth.
seats down got sick, so you got to go home.
Exactly, because you're a contact person and all that.
So we decided to just homeschool last year.
Yeah, we did. And so we did it, and you know, they did really well. Really can't complain. The kids pretty much did it themselves, right? I didn't get all that involved. I assigned them work, and then they did it. It was good. But they're back in school this year, just because we are so isolated.
Just a
There's no-
socialization.
There's no neighbors, there's no nothing. So we figured, look, we'll just put them back in school. And if it doesn't work out, we can always pull them back out. We know we've done it, so we could do it again if it's needed.
Homeschooling was nice, but because of where we're at, it would be a week or two before we would leave, because I go to work, she works from home, so it might be a week or two before we need to leave to go get something.
Before we
But
see people in general.
before we run out of chicken feed, so it might be 2 weeks before the kids leave the house.
Yeah.
And they were just getting to where they didn't know how to interact with other people when they see other people.
Yeah, they would
So-
be very socially awkward.
Yeah,
at
very
that point.
timid. So this year we were like, let's put them back in school because they need to interact with other kids and with other adults as well. So,
Yeah,
but they're
yeah.
back in it.
But they take part in everything that we do all day long. So they're out in the garden, they're out with the animals, they're out doing the bigger building projects with
Yeah.
us. Zachary is really, he's very interested in like the foraging and stuff. Like when I go out into the woods and I go look for mushrooms and berries and all that kind of stuff, he's out there with me. And he finds stuff, and like he'll point out things to me. He's like, oh look, maybe that's a food. It's got like something growing on it. It looks like you could eat it. It's like, well, hold off a minute. Let's check out what it is first. before you put it in your mouth. But yeah, he found some muscadine this summer. It's just like everywhere. But because of where we are, by the time they arrive to eat, the birds already got to them. So unfortunately, no muscadine for us. And he does really well with that. And he really loves being out there with the animals. And when he has friends over, we don't see them. They're just gone.
In the woods.
They're just in the woods somewhere building a fort, and that's what childhood is all about, right? They're like, go, don't mess with the snakes. Leave them alone. Just walk away. But that's how the life lessons are learned, and we're just legal beat when it comes to that. We do have rules. We do have a lot of rules. We're pretty strict when it comes to allowing screen time. It's very, very limited.
Yeah. We don't want you to think that we think that it's the enemy or anything. We do allow screen time. We're not saying it should be a zero tolerance policy with it. But we use it as a tool to motivate them. It's not something that they just, I don't know how I want to say it.
That they just have free access to all the time.
It's not like a basic need that they have. It's not just a right to electronics. It's a privilege, and we use that to motivate them to do it. To bend them to our will.
Yep, basically.
I would say that the hardest part is just as parents setting the boundary and getting them outside with you, getting them to do stuff, because it's real easy when they're like, I don't want to. Okay, well, you don't want to. Go do what you want. You know?
Yeah, no.
Because what's really sad is this whole lifestyle that we have. It just used to be the way it was back in the day. And like, if you guys weren't in here when Nicole was talking earlier, back in the old times when this country was first being established, you had everything that you needed on your property. You grew for you and your neighbor, and you did the best you could because winter was coming, right? And you had a lot of work to do, and you didn't have anybody coming to help. So you needed as many hands on the farm as you could have. So that's why these families would have so many children.
Right.
Because as they would grow up, you would need a new set of hands to collect the chicken eggs. So it'd be time to make another baby, because in 3 years we need somebody new out there collecting the chicken eggs, because
the 5-year-old,
the little girl that's collecting chicken eggs is about to have to start getting in the garden with the mom and harvesting peas.
Exactly.
So we would have these big families, and we've gotten away from that. Now we're smaller families, just because we don't have that necessity anymore, because we're so quick to go to Winn-Dixie or Publix or whatever, Walmart, whatever grocery stores
It's
local
so
to you.
It's so convenient. And it's so easy to forget, because it wasn't that long ago, right? It was not
Really
that long
wasn't.
ago, but we've lost so much knowledge along the way. I grew up in Germany, and I came over here, I don't know what year, 2004?
04.
Long time ago. But I still grew up that way. And that was just the way of life, right? It wasn't called homesteading. There was no like fashion word attached to it. That was just the way we lived our life. We had our little garden. We grew out our meat for every year. And then every year, all the men got together. It was like a little party thing, right? They got all the pigs together and they loaded them up. And then we had a little butcher party, right? And then everybody went home with their share. And that's how I grew up. And so we always knew where our food was coming from. We always knew what to do. We spent a lot of time out in the forest with our grandparents growing up, and just kind of learning, okay, what's edible, what's not edible. Very important. What can you use as a medicinal, and so on. And we learned all of that growing up. And to my understanding, we don't do that over here in school or anything, right?
Yeah, we don't teach it in school.
Yeah,
No.
yeah. We did it in school as well. Like when I went through elementary school, that was part of the science curriculum. You go out into the woods and you better know how to identify these trees and these bushes and these berries. You need to know what's what. Because it wasn't, World War II wasn't that long ago, right? I mean, if you're thinking about it, it wasn't that long ago. So the generation, like my mom's generation and then my grandparents' generation, they went through the war and then the after-war time. So they knew what hard times meant, right? they didn't have food. They didn't have anything. So so that's how we were raised. And so the schools still instilled that in us, like you need to know how to be able to live off the land if things go wrong again. So that's why I want my kids out there, because I want them to understand, it's like, look, there's food to be found. You have food in abundance in your garden. I guarantee you there's a lot of stuff that you kill on purpose that you can probably eat. And there's just so much to it, so much knowledge that is lost over time, and that's why these events are so great to learn from each other. Like the opportunity that we've had just to talk with other people who, you know, they may not be doing the same thing we're doing, but they have learned their lessons, and we shared like what's worked for you, what's worked for us, like man, maybe try this, maybe try that, and that knowledge exchange is just it's amazing. So the homesteading community is just so welcoming and sharing, and like it's an amazing way to live your life and to be able just having that security in you knowing, and then your raising your children in a way where if push comes to shove, I know they'll be okay. Right? I know that they'll know how to at least plant the basics. They'll figure out how to process them. They'll know how to preserve them. They'll know how to cook with them. Like especially our teenager just recently really started getting into the kitchen and you know, learning how to preserve, and then learning how to cook and use certain things that, you know, we just went out into the garden. It's like, all right, we're just gonna cook something with it, right? I mean, here's this and this and that, and like let's, you know, figure out what to do with it and be creative with it. And there's so much that you can do, that you can teach them on a daily, and just make it part of their routine where they don't even think about it.
Yeah. And they're learning. Believe it or not, when they're out there with you, you're teaching them, and they're learning. It might not be a classroom structure where you're sitting them down and hey, this is this.
There'll be a quiz later.
When they're out there and they're digging holes with you and they're putting the seeds in the ground, it might not be something textbook for them, but later in life they'll have that skill and they'll remember how they got it. And a lot of that gets lost right now because there's not a lot of people doing this. But because of the grocery stores, and when we left Abu Dhabi to come here, all of our friends thought we were crazy because we were leaving that city life that we had to come back to start chasing pigs. I don't know if you guys follow us on YouTube, but I chase a lot of pigs.
There's a lot of pig chasing videos.
So, but they laughed at us for doing that. You know, that's crazy. People don't live like that anymore. But now when you go to the grocery stores and all the shelves are bare, now they're the crazy ones. And now those same people are calling me, hey, how do you
start with this?
How do you get started? How much land do I need to buy to be able to have a pig, you know?
Right.
So I was like, no, I'm crazy. You don't want any part of this craziness. You
don't do that. Come on,
you go to Piggly Wiggly. you go to Walmart and get your meat. You know, but it's just crazy how quickly since we started it, how it's shifted. And now people that thought we were crazy 2 years ago are coming to us wanting to learn how to do it.
And I mean, we just see it on ourselves too, of how much we've learned. Because when we first started, we had no clue. We had a little bit of an idea, right, on how to raise animals in a garden and things like that. But I mean, the first garden that we had was basically just, well, let's just see what happens. Let's hope for the best and see what happens. But we've learned a lot, and like I said, now people call us like, well, how do I do this? Or did you ever figure out how to do this better? And it's like, yeah, I can actually help you now. It's like, it's crazy how much we've learned. And then that knowledge falls down to the kids because they were right beside us as we were learning as well. So, so yeah, it's been a crazy journey, but it's been amazing. We've learned a lot. We made a lot of mistakes along the way. So we definitely learn from those too. But it's been absolutely amazing, and the kids have been such an amazing help.
Just the feeling when you sit down together at night for family dinner and the kids can point to the plate and know that the spaghetti sauce came from our tomatoes that I helped plant, and it's the tomatoes that I was in the garden and I helped harvest. Or when we're having pork chops and they remember when we went to get the pigs as piglets and going out in the rain, in
Chasing
the cold,
them when they got out
to feed pigs. They remember that, and then they see the results on their plate, and
it's amazing.
yeah,
being able
and it
to
does
sit down.
resonate with them. It really does.
Do they eat their vegetables better?
They've always been kind of good. I mean, yeah, they haven't really been picky eaters. I didn't really give them that choice. You eat what you get, that's it. I'm not cooking you
But
something different. You'll go to bed hungry. Sorry.
You definitely do see them light up.
Yeah.
You definitely see them light up when they get the plate and they know that what they're eating, they had a hand in putting it on that plate, you know?
And it's just
special.
the taste is so different, which you don't think about that. Like you don't think about it when you buy pork chops at Publix or wherever you go, and then you raise your own. When you have your own raised meat and then you eat grocery store bought meat.
Yeah.
I'm losing my words, I can't talk. It's such a difference in taste, and not just with the meat. It's the same with the vegetables and the fruit that you grow. And when you can go out into the garden and you can just pull a bundle of lettuce or kale out of the ground and just eat it the same day, that nutrition that you get from that and the taste is just, it's just a whole different world, right? If you bite into a tomato that you just pulled off of the vine, it's just so different. And you wouldn't think that it's such a big difference in taste until you actually taste the difference. Because you lose so much taste and so much nutrition from farm to the grocery store. I mean, these things are in transit for days and weeks, you know, depending on what season it is. Does it grow locally or not?
Frozen and then shipped
Frozen and whatever it is.
Who knows
And
how
it's
long.
just, it's a completely different world of taste that you never even knew existed. Right?
We raise meat rabbits, and anytime, I don't know if anybody else here raises meat rabbits or
Rabbits are
had
great.
meat rabbits. Whenever I talk to friends about meat rabbits or anybody, they're like, oh, we couldn't have meat rabbits because my kids would cry. Okay, put your kids in charge of the meat rabbits. Make that their chore, and you'll see how quick they change their mind
Yeah.
on how much they love rabbits when they're going out there every day and cleaning out cages
Yeah.
and feeding and watering. Then it's not a fluffy pet anymore. Then it's a chore, and then it's, when are we processing these things? Because I like it better when there's only 4 rabbits and
Instead of 20.
and not 25 rabbits. Some of these rabbits need to go.
Exactly. Yeah, rabbits are great. I mean, if you are a gardener, I recommend rabbits as well, because you just take their manure straight into the garden.
Yeah,
It's great.
This isn't a rabbit manure class.
No, it's not.
But I will say it requires no composting. You can take it straight and put it directly into your garden. Where other manures like chicken manure and whatnot, you have to compost it down because the nitrogen levels are so high in it that if you put it directly in your garden, it's going
Burn
to
it
burn
up.
everything up. Rabbit, there's no, or very low nitrogen, if any. You can just put it right in and everything's just going to blow up for you.
Not blow up, but, you know.
Explode with growth and life and food. It's
Yes.
not gonna
That's
it's not gonna blow up in a fiery ball of flames.
No, not that bad. But yeah, like just a pointer basically there.
Yeah.
But yeah, they've made a huge transition, and for us, it's just really neat to see that they can make that transition if you just kind of push them out of their comfort zone. They live under your roof. You're the boss.
So,
So.
but to wrap up, and then we'll answer questions. Challenge them.
Yeah.
Don't give them the option between the two. Use video time, screen time as a bargaining tool to guide them where you want.
A motivator.
Something to motivate them with. If you take away that option and get them out there, they're going to enjoy the time out there with you. If you just let them sit in the room and play video games, they will definitely do that. Ours would too.
Yeah.
But you just need to take that.
I forgot to post it first.
You gotta set the priorities, and if you let the iPad be the priority, then they're naturally just gonna gravitate to that, because that's the funner, most immediate reward for them is that. If you get them out there with you, they're gonna complain, it's gonna suck at first, but then they won't realize it, but they're just gonna start having fun, and they're children, so they're gonna do what they can to make what they're doing interesting and fun for them. And before they know it, the job's going to be done, and then they're going to, wow, that was fun. And then next time, they're going to complain less about it.
True.
You know, you'd be like, remember, you helped me last time, and you were making mud cakes with the soil. Remember? Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, let's go. You got to set those boundaries, and you got to let them get out there and make mistakes with you. Yeah. And you got to challenge them.
Yeah, and you don't need to make it entertaining, right? It's not supposed to be entertaining.
They'll find the entertainment.
They'll figure it out. Oh yeah.
They're creative.
Zachary out in the garden has gotten stuck in all kind of 5-gallon buckets and things like that, pretending to be a turtle.
We're not child care professionals or psychologists by any means. We're just lazy parents that
try to push as much as possible
want to
towards
spread the
kids.
labor around. So if anybody's got any questions, Nicole will feel free to answer.
I don't have all the answers. Yeah.
Did your daughter want to get anything else by using a goat piss or anything?
So we've started venturing into making soaps and things like that. So she has not tried it out yet, but she wants to. So I figured now that I'm getting a little bit better at it, I can teach her without blowing up the house, basically. So she wants to start doing that. I have no doubt she's going to do awesome with it, because she's overall she's very artistically inclined, so she likes a lot of that. So it's just another craft, right, for her. So I think she's going to do really great with it. And we're going to give that a go and see. We've got everything at home that we need for it. Just got to go for it. Right. So that'll be the next. And then for Zachary, we'll see. He's really interested in kind of taking over that chicken business a little bit once we build up the flock, and then possibly eggs, or maybe he'll start breeding some and hatching some. That could be something that he wants to do. So we'll see. We have the tools. We have it. It's just about making use with what we've got. Yeah.
How old did you say your kids were?
Right now they're 13 and 10. 13 and 10. And I mean, they've been doing it for years now, so it's just getting them out there. It's not something that they couldn't have done when they were younger. It's just making it challenging them with what they can do, because the kids probably think they can do more than they can anyway. So maybe sometimes you have to put a lid on it a little bit. It's like, maybe hold back on that. But
if you got younger kids, you can. I wish we got started when we were younger, because you can definitely indoctrinate them easier. And
brainwashing is easier the younger they are.
When they're younger, and they just grow up with it instead of cold turkey.
Going from city life to there's no internet ever.
Yeah.
No internet, no TV.
I was taking care of the sheep. We were putting the sheep in the barn a few weeks ago, and we had, anybody know what Kuni pigs are? Yeah, they're a smaller heritage breed. They're a little bigger than a potbelly pig, but they're not as big as your typical Berkshire or Duroc pig, right? So one of our Kunis got in, and my daughter's 13, and I'm trying to keep the sheep in the pen, and I told her to get the pig out of the barn, and I expected her to grab like a pitchfork and try to get it out, and she just ran up to it, grabbed the pig by the back legs, and it's kicking and bucking. And this is a 13-year-old girl, and this thing's just kicking and bucking, and it's squealing, and she's just holding on,
Doing a pig
riding, and she's just dragging it out. I tell you, my eyes welled up with tears.
Pride.
My 13, I was like, how many 13-year-old little girls are going to wrestle a pig out of the barn? I fully expected her to grab a pitchfork. I can't do it. It won't follow me. I can't. But she just
got it
straight to
done.
it. Just grabbed it. It's squealing and screaming. I don't know if you guys have ever heard a pig squeal.
They're pretty loud.
It will pierce your ears. And she just manned up on it and drug it out.
Yeah, it was good.
It's not what I expected.
Yeah. They made us proud the other day. They came, we were doing something else, I don't know, and it was time for evening chores. And, you know, we were all back inside the house and just say, okay, it's time to get all the chores done. And we've got some lambs right now with mamas, and with it getting so cold at night, we got them inside the barn right now overnight. And that was our chore. That's what we did.
Yeah.
You know, that's what we dealt with. But the kids went down there. They got everything done already. So when we came inside, you know, we were just having a conversation. Hey, it's time for us to go out there, get that done. And Emma's like, what do you mean? Well, we gotta get the sheep. We gotta lock them up, or like it's all done already.
Yeah, we sent them down
okay.
to do evening
Cool.
chores, expecting them to just do the water and the hay and put feed out and feed the dogs, the livestock guard dogs, and then wrangling sheep. We have 5 sheep and 3 lambs, and sheep are dumb. Can we all agree?
Smartest animal around.
Overrated.
All right, I didn't realize Doug was in here. But they don't want to do what you want them to do, and we kind of got to corral them into the barn. They want to be in there, but when you get behind them, then they think you're trying to kill them.
Right.
But so we figured they would go down to the barn and do the typical
Do their
feeding,
chores. Yeah.
typical feedings, and then they came back up, and we got done with what we were doing. It was like, okay, we need to go get these sheep put away before it gets much darker. And then she's like, no, we already did that. And I'm like, what? You guys did that? And she's like, yeah. Wait, why'd you do it? Well, it's part of the chores. We're looking at them like, wow, you did it, and they're looking at us like, did we not have to do that? Did we do more than what was
So
expected?
give them back to ground.
Yeah. So we were like, yeah, no, we expect you to do that. We expected that. And we'd have been disappointed otherwise. They almost saw like, did we do too much? So, but yeah, they will. If you
They'll surprise you.
let them do it, they'll do it.
Yeah.
They know what needs to be done, and they will surprise you and exceed your expectations.
Yeah.
They certainly will.
What do you do when they say, I can't do it?
It depends. I let them work through it.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do it is not an excuse if you haven't put some kind of effort forth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Why do you think you can't do it?
Yeah, we work through it, and if you can, I don't know if anybody in here's ever lifted weights, but when you have a spotter, and I'm not a bodybuilder. I'm not a bodybuilder. But when you have a spotter and you get to a point where you can't, the spotter's not going to take it from you. He's going to assist you, right? If you tell me you can't do it, why can't you do it? Whatever it is, let's do it together, and I'm going to do just enough to assist you in doing it. Because first of all, I wouldn't have you do it if I didn't think you could do it. If I didn't think you were capable, I'm not going to put more on you because I don't want to I don't want to set you up for failure, right? So I'm not going to give you something more than I think you can handle. But if and maybe I misjudged the situation and you truly show me that you can't, then I'm going to assist you just enough to get you to help you do it. I'm not going to take it over. I'm not going to do it for you, but I will give you a hand, as little hand and help as I need to give you, so that you still walk away feeling like you got it accomplished, and not that Dad had to do it for you.
Yeah, so that you can come into the house and say, you couldn't have done, Dad could not have handled this without me.
Yeah. I don't ever want them to feel like they can't do it. You know what I mean? So I don't give them more than they can handle. But if I unintentionally do that, I'm not going to just take over and do it for them.
Right.
I'm going to guide them and give them just enough help for them to get the job done.
Yeah, and like you said, with that, they'll surprise you. They can handle more than you think they can handle. And once they figure that out, once they get to that step where they figure out, it's like, hey, I can actually do a lot more than I think I'm capable of, they'll start pushing for more, right? They'll start pushing to take over more and learn more.